We're still stuck with a system we inherited more than 100 years ago. Those are going to be helpful for students with diverse learning needs. All right. Welcome to the first episode of Included with Miss Jenine. In the next few minutes, we will explore simple and practical accommodations na maaari mong itry sa iyong classroom kahit wala ka pang special education background. This session is all about inclusion that starts with small but meaningful steps. Kaya relax lang, take what resonates, at sana makatulong ito sa iyong mga learners. But first, sino nga ba si Miss Jenine? So, I am an educator who has worked both in the US and the Philippines. I am a licensed education specialist in California with a clear credential in mild to moderate needs and autism authorization. So, isa rin akong IEP or Individualized Education Plan coach at advocate para sa mga batang may disability. It is safe to say that I have helped about 40,000 teachers, parents, service providers, and schools through content creation, webinars, and online support. So, nagsishare ako ng practical, evidence-based strategies at higit sa lahat, I encourage a shift in mindset kung ano nga ba talaga ang ibig sabihin ng inclusive education. Now, why are we here today? Dahil lahat ng learners, regardless of ability, background, or diagnosis, deserve access to quality learning. This video is meant to give you practical and doable tools you can apply in your classroom, even if you're managing a large class or working with limited resources. Okay, now I'm not here to promise you that your classroom will make a full 180-degree shift after this session. And I also want to be clear. I don't claim to have all the answers, and this is not the only approach. This is just one way, one perspective based on my experience and research and a deep belief that small changes matter. Because yes, there are systemic challenges, di ba? Kagaya ng overcrowded classrooms, limited support staff, heavy curriculum demands. But we want to focus on what we can control. And that is, making small, intentional adjustments na pwede nating gawin. And sometimes, itong mga small shifts na ito, this is already enough to help a child feel safe, seen, and supported. So I invite you to take what's helpful, leave what doesn't fit, and hopefully walk away with at least one idea you can try tomorrow. Okay, so let's talk about context. Why inclusion matters today. All right, so noong 1800s, so this is the start of the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so we need to understand the context to take a quick look at how our school system came to be. Bakit ganito yung school system natin? So our traditional school system was originally designed for efficiency, not exactly individuality. Back in the 18th to 19th century, during the Industrial Revolution in the US, schools were modeled after factories. Yes, factories. Diba? That's why we have bells, same age grade levels, and standardized tests. These were all meant to prepare learners for routine jobs in a growing economy. And as many of us know here in the Philippines, ayan, we inherited this system during U.S. colonization. So you've probably heard of the Thomasites, diba? The first American teacher sent here. Kaya naman, what we ended up with was a uniform, standardized structure. Ayan. So yeah, sure, some students thrived in this setup, but many others, especially those who learned differently, they were left behind. So Maraming naiwan, di ba? So here's the thing though, in the US, that system has started to evolve. As early as the 1970s, policies supporting inclusive education were being put in place. So today they have laws, systems katulad ng individualized education plans that support and recognize diverse learning needs. Hindi pa rin perfect yung sistema nila. Hindi pa rin ito, 100% na masasabi mo na, oh, they got it all right. But for sure, it's miles ahead in terms of recognizing that not all learners fit into one mold. At the very least, meron na silang structures to support different kinds of learners, whether that learner has an official diagnosis or kung wala man. And sadly, here in the Philippines, we're still stuck with a system we inherited more than 100 years ago. And while systemic reform doesn't happen overnight, we can begin. Kahit maliit na hakbang lang, right here, right now. Because every small change we make in our classroom brings us closer to a learning environment that truly welcomes all. All right, so ngayon, what are accommodations? Ayan. So, ano nga ba yung accommodation? So, this is the basic. Accommodations mean that we're not changing the curriculum itself, but we are changing how we deliver so that all learners have a fair chance to succeed. So, in other words, pareho pa rin ang goal or lesson, but the way we teach it, the way students show how they know it, or tools that they use, ina-adjust natin ito based sa needs ng learner. So, hindi ibig sabihin ito that we are spoon-feeding the learner or that we are lowering the expectations. Accommodations just remove the barriers so every learner has a fair shot to success. So, think of it this way. If one student needs glasses to read the board, we don't say they're less capable, diba? We give them glasses. Accommodations work the same way for processing, behavior, communication, or sensory needs. All right. Ngayon naman. All right. So, we're gonna go over the accommodations na maaari mong gamitin sa iyong classroom. So, accommodation number 1, visual supports. Visual supports are images, objects, or written cues that help children, especially those, autistic learners or my processing disorder. It helps them understand information, follow routines, and communicate better. So, isang example nito ay itong visual schedule. Okay, this helps autistic learners to predict what's coming next. Nire-reduce nito ang anxiety, yung mga possible meltdowns or confusion. It prepares them emotionally and mentally. It also supports us, diba? Teachers, kasi hindi na natin kailangan mag-verbally prompt every time. So the schedule does the prompting for us. All right. Meron din tayong mini schedule. So mini schedule is something that we can use in a more structured setting like circle time. So like for me, I use mini visual schedules when I want to teach structure, lalo na sa mga maliliit na bata. So I sandwich the structure. I start with a fun activity like, hello song, in the middle, I put story time, which is structured, and I want them to be exposed more in this type of learning. And then I end it with movement or music again. So this shows them that even structured tasks can be fun and predictable. All right. And then we have a first then chart. Okay, so first then chart is my favorite. Kasi if you have a student who's struggling to start or complete a task, pwede mong gamitin ang first then chart. So for example, color ka muna for 2 minutes, di ba? And then after nito, you can play. So this shows that the students na hindi sila maiiwan sa non-preferred activity forever. So after the work, may kasunod na fun. So this helps them build self-regulation and predictability. So basically, hindi ka forever magdodrawing or hindi ka forever magko-color, even if it's your non-preferred activity. So kailangan they learn that, even if they don't like something 100%, they should do it still, 'di ba? So, and then increasing the tolerance. Ayan. So, um, next is so I like this one, emotion regulation chart. So if a child struggles with regulation, you can try visuals that show all feelings are welcome. Pero may limit ang behaviors, di ba? Kasi we need to make sure that, their behavior is appropriate in the classroom. So for example, if I feel mad, here's what I can do: stomp my feet, squeeze a toy, or ask for a break. It becomes a visual check in tool, empowering students to respond in acceptable ways. Yan. At next naman ay ang communication board. So finally, we use core communication boards. So these are for children who struggle with verbal communication. So they can still express what they want or feel. So for example, for some, especially gestalt language processors, there are versions that offer scripted o yung mga mas mahahaba pang, sentences or words. But even a simple board like this, which uses core words or yung mga words like play, want, more, words that they can use across all settings, this is still, important and beneficial because it increases their engagement. We want to empower them, by using different forms of communication. Kasi nga, language empowers our learner. All right. And then next, accommodation number 2, flexible seating and movement. Okay, so ang flexible seating or movement is where students choose how and where they can learn best. So whether that's standing, sitting on a wobble stool, lying on a mat, or taking short movement breaks, those are going to be helpful for students with diverse learning needs. So for example, kung mas natatapos nila yung task habang nakatayo, we don't always need to insist na maupo ka. Dapat nakaupo ka kasi yun yung sign na natututo ka, which isn't true all the time. So as long as the child is on task and engaged, then that setup is acceptable. Learning doesn't have to look one way. All right, next naman, yan yung may nagda-dance na mga bata. So, incorporating movement breaks, 'di ba? Intentional movement throughout the day, kahit 2 minutes pa yan or 3 minutes of Zumba, stretching, or dancing. This can help reset attention and improve focus. So, kahit yung mga transitions between subjects or activities, pwede silang gumalaw. Like, stand up, take 2 steps, spin 1, sit again. It works for the whole class, and especially for children who struggle with regulation or attention. Okay. And then we also have a calming corner. Okay. So more and more classrooms have a quiet space filled with throw pillows, fidgets, visuals for breathing and self-regulation. So, nakakatulong ito sa mga bata na mag-regulate ang kanilang emotions. But also remember, dapat may clear rules sa paggamit nito. So, sometimes, ang challenge ay paano sila aalis doon sa calm corner because it's just so fun to be in there. So just make sure to set time limits or signals, like a timer or a calm down card or whatever works for your learners. There are also tools that you can try, katulad ng resistance band on chair legs. Ayan, yung red resistance band na yan. It is great for children or learners who have fidgety feet. Yung palaging ang kumukuya-koy. Ayan. So students can push or bounce their legs to release energy. Ayan. And another one is a pillow or mat on the floor. So some kids focus better sitting low, using chair as their table. So kung hindi naman, di ba, yung mga bagay na yan, it doesn't disrupt learning. It actually supports it. So, di ba, we can give it to our students. Wobble stools, balance cushions, bean bags. So these allow small movements while still staying in place. So in the end, it's all about offering options, diba? Not special treatment, but fair access. Because kapag yung mga learners natin, they feel safe and comfortable, mas natututo sila. All right, and here goes accommodation number 3 o yung tinatawag natin na alternate response options. Ayan. So, alternate response options let students show what they know in different ways. So, especially kung meron silang challenges sa speech, motor, or processing. Instead of requiring only one format, kagaya ng typical paper and pencil, diba, or speaking or writing, we can allow these responses. So, for example, the first one, pointing to pictures, choosing from visuals using gestures or signs, typing instead of writing, or drawing or using manipulatives. Okay, so for example, ito yung how are you? So during circle time, I use this because typically when we ask children, how are you today? Typically they will answer verbally, diba? I'm good, I'm great. But for those with limited language, you can use this. Okay, so you can use a visual sentence strip with interchangeable words or emotions. So there's I am, and they can choose between happy, okay, or sad. Ayan. And let them choose or point. So this empowers learners to participate in their own way. All right, next, another one is communication boards. We talked about this earlier, but this is another form, another helpful tool, interest-based communication boards. So ito, customized with items or activities the child likes. I use this to ask questions, di ba? Kagaya ng for younger learners. What do you want to play with? It helps the child learn that pictures represent objects and they can use visuals to communicate instead of grabbing, diba? Or acting out. This builds turn taking, expression, and independence. All right. So beyond paper and pencil, not every student can show learning through writing. So instead of forcing their traditional paper and pencil tests, consider letting them use manipulatives to solve math problems, and pointing to answers on a board, drawing their answer, verbal explanations if writing is hard. As you know, educators, it is always important to ask this question. Are we measuring their handwriting or their understanding of the lesson? Ayan. Also, tech options kung meron available. For students with access to devices, kung merong laptop, 'di ba? Or merong maliit na computer, uh, they may use these devices. Marami na ngayong technology that supports learning kagaya ng speech to text to speech tools, or typing instead of writing. May mga apps din with drag and drop, drag and drop, tap to choose, or audio recording function. So inclusion doesn't mean lowering expectations. It means giving multiple ways to succeed. Ayan. And lastly, all right, number 4, simplified instructions. Ayan. So simplified instruction just means that we are breaking down tasks into smaller, clearer steps using simple language or visuals. So this is particularly helpful for learners with processing delays, learners with language difficulties, autistic learners, or those with executive functioning challenges. So instead of saying, get your English book and turn it to page 28. All right, which sometimes can be overwhelming for a child with diverse needs. Try this. Okay, get your book in English. Wait for students respond. It could be 3 5 seconds or even more. Now, turn page 28. So we always wait again before we say the next step. Bakit ito gumagana? It avoids cognitive overload. It gives students processing time, make expectations clear and doable. So, all these strategies, they go hand in hand, like the one that I used or presented earlier about the visuals. Diba? You may use visual supports to show a step-by-step process of something, or first then card. Pair verbal cues with gestures or visual prompts, or use checklists for multi-step tasks. Ayan. So, bonus tip, kapag sanay na sila sa sequence, pwede mo nang gradually i-fade ang support and encourage more independence. Simplified doesn't mean less. It means clearer, mas malinaw. Alright, so ano ang itatry mo sa mga strategies na nabanggit natin? So remember, you don't need to make big changes to make a big impact. Sometimes, one small shift, a visual support, a movement, break, a new way to respond, this can be the turning point for a student who's been struggling to belong. Now, if you've tried everything, all right, let's say you've tried everything that you need. Ayan. Okay. Um, but still that learner is making little or slow progress, they might benefit from more intensive support katulad ng Individualized Education Plan. I have an on-demand IEP Basics workshop you can check out, a practical beginner-friendly guide that walks you through who needs an IEP, what the process look like, and how to get started without feeling overwhelmed. So IEP shouldn't be intimidating. Supporting our children shouldn't be intimidating. They should be empowering. You'll find the link in the description if you'd like to learn more. Thank you for being here, and thank you for doing the work to build an inclusive classroom, one small change at a time.